Have you ever noticed how the people who control their emotions seem impossible to break? Life hits them. People betray them. Opportunities disappear. Critics attack them. Yet somehow, they remain calm, focused, and powerful. While everyone around them is reacting emotionally, they move like a mountain in the middle of a storm. That kind of power is not luck. It is detachment. And today, you are going to understand why learning to detach deeply can completely transform your life. Because the moment people realize they can control your emotions, they begin to control your decisions. If someone can control your happiness, they can manipulate your peace. If someone can control your anger, they can control your actions. If someone can control your fears, they can control your future. Most people never realize this. They spend their entire lives emotionally attached to everything around them. Attached to opinions. Attached to validation. Attached to relationships. Attached to social media. Attached to attention. Attached to being accepted. And because of that attachment, they become weak without knowing it. Every compliment controls their mood. Every criticism destroys their confidence. Every rejection breaks their spirit. Every delay frustrates them. Every little thing shakes their inner peace. But the strongest people in this world think differently. They understand one dangerous truth. The less emotionally dependent you are on the outside world, the more powerful you become inside. Real freedom begins the moment you stop needing everyone to understand you. Read that again in your mind. Real freedom begins the moment you stop needing everyone to understand you. Some people are exhausted not because life is too hard, but because they are too emotionally connected to things they cannot control. They care too much about what others think. They replay conversations all night. They chase approval from people who secretly enjoy seeing them insecure. They constantly explain themselves. They try to make everyone happy. And slowly, they lose themselves. But there comes a moment in life when a person gets tired. Tired of being emotionally drained. Tired of chasing validation. Tired of giving energy to people who give nothing back. Tired of allowing temporary situations to destroy permanent peace. That moment changes everything. Because pain has a strange way of teaching wisdom. Sometimes betrayal teaches detachment better than motivation ever could. Sometimes heartbreak teaches self-respect better than advice ever could. Sometimes loneliness teaches strength better than companionship ever could. And when you finally learn the art of detachment, something unbelievable happens. You stop reacting to everything. You stop begging for attention. You stop explaining your value. You stop chasing people. You stop trying to force connections. You stop proving yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. And suddenly, your life becomes peaceful. Not because life became easier. But because you became stronger. Most people misunderstand detachment. They think detachment means not caring. That is false. Detachment is not becoming cold-hearted. It is learning emotional discipline. It is caring without losing yourself. It is loving without becoming emotionally enslaved. It is giving without expecting constant validation in return. It is understanding that your peace should never depend on temporary people or temporary situations. That is true power. Look around carefully. People are emotionally addicted to reactions. They post things hoping strangers validate them. They constantly check who viewed their stories. They panic when someone ignores their message. They lose confidence because of online opinions. Their emotions rise and fall based on external attention. And this creates emotional slavery. Because whoever controls your emotions controls your life. The world respects people who remain grounded under pressure. The world notices people who do not panic easily. The world fears people who cannot be emotionally manipulated. Think about it. Why are calm people so powerful? Because emotional control is rare. Anybody can react. Anybody can scream. Anybody can lose control. But remaining calm when everything tries to provoke you, that is strength. When someone insults you and you stay calm, you win. When someone ignores you and you remain focused, you win. When someone doubts you and you continue building silently, you win. Because detached people do not waste energy trying to control others. They focus on controlling themselves. And that changes everything. There is a dangerous habit destroying many lives today. Over-attachment. People become attached to outcomes. Attached to specific people. Attached to unrealistic expectations. Attached to comfort. And when life changes, they collapse emotionally. But life will always change. People change. Situations change. Feelings change. Nothing stays permanent. The person who survives mentally is the person who adapts emotionally. That is why detachment is freedom. Because detached people understand something powerful. Everything in life is temporary. The good moments. The painful moments. The applause. The criticism. The success. The failures. Everything passes. So why destroy your peace over temporary experiences? Some people are suffering because they built their identity around things that can disappear at any moment. Money. Relationships. Status. Attention. When those things disappear, they feel empty because they never built themselves internally. But detached people build from within. Their confidence does not depend on applause. Their self-worth does not depend on relationships. Their peace does not depend on perfect circumstances. And because of that, they become unshakable. Imagine reaching a point where rejection no longer destroys you. Imagine becoming so emotionally disciplined that negativity cannot penetrate your mind. Imagine waking up without needing validation from anybody. That is the power of detachment. And no, it does not happen overnight. Detachment is built through painful lessons. Life teaches it slowly. Sometimes through betrayal. Sometimes through disappointment. Sometimes through abandonment. Sometimes through failure. Every painful experience teaches you one important lesson. Do not lose yourself trying to hold on to things that were never meant to stay forever. One of the biggest signs that someone controls you is this. They can ruin your entire day with their behavior. Think about that carefully. One text message changes your mood. One rejection destroys your confidence. One opinion affects your peace. One unfollow hurts your emotions. That means your emotional state is controlled externally. And external control is weakness. The goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to become emotionally independent. There is a huge difference. Emotionless people suppress feelings. Emotionally independent people master feelings. They feel emotions without becoming consumed by them. They experience pain without becoming destroyed by it. They experience success without becoming addicted to it. They remain balanced. And balance is power. Many people cannot detach because they fear loneliness. But sometimes solitude is exactly what your soul needs. Silence reveals truths distraction hides. When you spend time alone, you begin understanding yourself deeply. You realize how much energy you wasted chasing people. You realize how much peace you sacrificed trying to fit in. You realize how much potential was buried under emotional chaos. And slowly, solitude transforms you. Not into a lonely person, but into a powerful person. Because there is strength in being comfortable alone. People who fear loneliness often tolerate disrespect just to avoid being abandoned. They stay in toxic relationships. They chase fake friendships. They accept manipulation. Why? Because they are emotionally dependent. But once you become comfortable standing alone, nobody can emotionally blackmail you anymore. That changes the game completely. One of the most powerful skills you can develop is silence. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every opinion deserves your response. Not every insult deserves your anger. Detached people understand this deeply. They choose peace over unnecessary battles. Weak people react instantly. Strong people observe first. Sometimes silence confuses people more than arguments ever could. Because calmness is intimidating. People expect emotional reactions. They expect drama. They expect you to lose control. But when you remain composed, they lose power over you. That is why emotional discipline feels almost supernatural in today's world. Most people are mentally weak because they are overstimulated constantly. Noise everywhere. Opinions everywhere. Distractions everywhere. Their minds never rest. And because their minds never rest, they become emotionally unstable. Detachment requires mental clarity. It requires learning to disconnect from chaos. That means protecting your energy carefully. Not everybody deserves access to your mind. Not everybody deserves access to your emotions. Not everybody deserves access to your peace. Some people enter your life only to drain you. To distract you. To manipulate you. To weaken your focus. Detached people recognize this quickly. And they walk away without guilt. One of the hardest lessons in life is understanding that not everyone is meant to stay in your journey forever. Some people are temporary chapters. Not permanent destinations. But many people suffer because they keep trying to force temporary people into permanent positions. And the more they force it, the more pain they create. Detachment teaches acceptance. Acceptance that some things end. Acceptance that some people leave. Acceptance that not every connection is meant to last forever. And strangely, acceptance creates peace. Because resistance creates suffering. The moment you stop trying to control everything, life becomes lighter. You stop obsessing over outcomes. You stop panicking about the future. You stop forcing things. And instead, you focus on becoming stronger internally. That is where true control exists. Inside yourself. Not outside yourself. A person who controls themselves becomes dangerous in the best possible way. They become disciplined. Focused. Calm. Clear-minded. Unshakable. And society cannot easily manipulate people like that. Modern culture profits from emotional weakness. Think carefully. Why are people constantly distracted? Why are people addicted to attention? Why are people constantly comparing themselves online? Because insecure people are easier to control. Detached people break free from that cycle. They stop seeking constant approval. They stop comparing their lives. They stop competing for validation. And suddenly, they experience something rare. Inner peace. Peace is one of the most underrated forms of wealth in this world. Some people have money but no peace. Some people have attention but no peace. Some people have relationships but no peace. Detached people prioritize peace above everything. Because they understand that peace creates clarity. And clarity creates power. When your emotions are stable, your decisions improve. When your mind is calm, your vision becomes sharper. When you stop reacting emotionally, you start thinking intelligently. That is why emotional mastery changes lives. There is a reason wise people throughout history valued solitude and self-control. Because external chaos becomes powerless against internal stability. Imagine becoming so mentally strong that rejection motivates you instead of breaking you. Imagine becoming so emotionally balanced that criticism no longer controls your confidence. Imagine becoming so detached that fake people naturally remove themselves from your life. That level of growth changes everything. And it begins with one decision. Stop giving people power over your emotions. Protect your peace like your future depends on it. Because it does. Some people are addicted to emotional chaos without realizing it. They constantly revisit painful memories. They overthink every interaction. They replay betrayals repeatedly. And slowly, their minds become prisons. Detachment frees you from mental imprisonment. It teaches you to let go. Not because what happened did not matter, but because your future matters more. You cannot heal while constantly reopening old wounds. You cannot grow while emotionally chained to the past. At some point, you must decide. Do you want peace? Or do you want permanent emotional suffering? Because you cannot have both. Healing begins when attachment ends. That does not mean you stop loving people. It means you stop losing yourself for people. There is a difference. Love without self-respect becomes self-destruction. Compassion without boundaries becomes exhaustion. Kindness without wisdom becomes manipulation. Detached people learn balance. And balance protects them. Many people fear becoming detached because they think they will lose connection with others. But healthy detachment actually improves relationships. Why? Because emotionally independent people love freely. Not desperately. They appreciate people without controlling them. They care without becoming obsessed. They give without losing identity. And that creates healthier connections. Desperation pushes people away. Inner stability attracts respect. Never forget that. People are drawn to emotional strength, not emotional dependency. That is why confidence feels magnetic. And true confidence comes from within. Not from attention. Not from popularity. Not from relationships. But from self-mastery. One day, you will realize something important. The people who hurt you often taught you the lessons you needed most. The betrayal taught boundaries. The rejection taught independence. The loneliness taught self-reliance. The pain taught wisdom. And suddenly, your suffering transforms into strength. That is the beauty of growth. Nothing becomes wasted when lessons are learned. Detached people understand this deeply. Instead of asking why life hurt them, they ask what life taught them. That mindset creates powerful transformation. Because victims stay trapped in pain. But learners evolve beyond it. Your mind becomes stronger when you stop personalizing everything. Not every insult matters. Not every opinion matters. Not every rejection is about you. Sometimes people project their own insecurities onto others. Detached people understand this. And because they understand this, they stop carrying unnecessary emotional burdens. One of the greatest forms of maturity is realizing you do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. Some battles are distractions. Some conflicts are traps. Some people provoke reactions because they feed on emotional chaos. Do not give them that satisfaction. Silence can be more powerful than revenge. Growth can be more powerful than anger. Success can be more powerful than explanation. Remember that. There is a silent transformation that happens when you finally stop chasing people who are not chasing you. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You feel the urge to reach out. The urge to explain yourself. The urge to fix everything. The urge to force connection. But then something strange begins to happen. Your mind becomes quieter. Your emotions become lighter. Your focus becomes sharper. And for the first time in a long time, you begin hearing your own thoughts clearly. Most people are so distracted by noise that they never truly meet themselves. They know everybody else's opinions, everybody else's lifestyle, everybody else's expectations, but they do not know themselves. They do not know what truly makes them happy. They do not know what peace feels like without attention. They do not know who they are without validation. That is why solitude feels terrifying to many people. Because silence exposes truth. And truth can be uncomfortable. Truth reveals how much energy was wasted. Truth reveals how many fake connections existed. Truth reveals how much emotional dependence controlled your decisions. But truth also creates freedom. Because once you see clearly, you can finally change your life. Detachment forces growth. It pushes you to stop looking outward for things that must be built inward. Confidence, peace, self-worth, discipline, purpose. These things cannot be permanently given by other people. They must be created within you. And that process changes a human being completely. One of the greatest signs of maturity is when you stop needing revenge. Think about that deeply. A younger mind wants to prove something. Wants people to regret hurting them. Wants dramatic endings. But a wiser mind realizes something important. Peace is more valuable than revenge. Protecting your energy matters more than winning arguments. Moving forward matters more than looking backward. Detached people stop fighting battles that no longer matter. Not because they are weak, but because they are focused. And focus is power. Every successful person eventually learns how to ignore distractions. And emotional distractions are often the most dangerous ones. One toxic relationship can destroy years of progress. One unhealthy attachment can weaken your discipline. One emotionally manipulative person can drain your mental strength daily. That is why guarding your mind is necessary. Not everybody deserves emotional access to you. Some people enter your life only to consume your energy while giving nothing back. And the longer you ignore this, the more exhausted you become. You can feel it sometimes. The emotional heaviness. The mental fatigue. The loss of motivation. And many times, it is not because you are weak. It is because your energy is connected to people and situations destroying your peace. Detachment reconnects you to yourself. It allows healing. It allows clarity. It allows growth. There is something incredibly powerful about becoming emotionally unavailable to negativity. Imagine someone trying to provoke you, but you remain calm. Imagine someone doubting you, but you remain focused. Imagine someone leaving your life, but instead of collapsing, you continue building yourself. That energy is rare. And rare energy attracts respect naturally. People secretly admire emotional stability because most people struggle with emotional control. Anybody can feel motivated when life feels easy. But remaining calm during difficult seasons? That requires inner strength. And inner strength is built in silence. Not in comfort. Not in applause. Not in easy moments. But in lonely nights when nobody sees your struggle. In moments when life tests your patience. In moments when disappointment tries to break your spirit. That is where emotional resilience is born. You begin understanding that life is not always about holding on. Sometimes life is about letting go gracefully. Letting go of people who constantly disrespect you. Letting go of habits destroying your future. Letting go of emotional patterns draining your peace. Letting go of the version of yourself that no longer serves your growth. Growth requires separation sometimes. And separation can hurt. But not all pain is bad. Some pain is transformation. Some pain is necessary. A seed must break before it grows. And many people are being broken by life right now not to destroy them, but to rebuild them stronger. The problem is that many people resist change because attachment feels safer. Even when attachment is toxic. Even when attachment is painful. Even when attachment destroys peace. Humans often cling to familiar pain because uncertainty scares them. But detached people understand something powerful. Growth begins outside emotional comfort zones. That is why they are willing to walk alone if necessary. Not because they hate people. But because they respect their future too much to stay trapped in environments killing their potential. Sometimes you must disconnect to reconnect with yourself. Sometimes you must disappear from noise to hear your inner voice. Sometimes you must lose external distractions to discover internal power. That is why solitude has transformed so many great minds throughout history. Isolation reveals character. When nobody is watching you, who are you? When nobody praises you, do you still work hard? When nobody supports you, do you still believe in yourself? Those questions reveal true strength. And detached people build strength privately before the world notices publicly. They do not depend on applause to continue. They do not stop because validation disappears. They keep building quietly. Day after day. Step after step. And eventually, their consistency changes their lives completely. Most people underestimate the power of emotional discipline. They think success is only about talent. But talent without emotional control destroys itself. A talented person who cannot control emotions will sabotage opportunities. They will react impulsively. Quit too early. Lose focus. Make emotional decisions. But emotionally disciplined people think differently. They pause before reacting. They stay calm under pressure. They move strategically instead of emotionally. And that creates long-term success. Never forget this. Your emotions are powerful servants but dangerous masters. If you do not control them, they will control you. And uncontrolled emotions create uncontrolled lives. That is why detachment matters. It creates space between feeling and reaction. It allows wisdom to enter. A calm person sees reality clearly. An emotional person often sees distorted reality. Anger exaggerates problems. Fear creates illusions. Desperation destroys judgment. But detachment clears the mind. And a clear mind makes powerful decisions. There is a level of freedom that comes when you stop taking everything personally. Someone ignores you. You remain peaceful. Someone criticizes you. You remain focused. Someone misunderstands you. You remain calm. Because your identity is no longer built on external reactions. That is emotional independence. And emotionally independent people become difficult to manipulate. Manipulators rely on emotional reactions. They provoke guilt, fear, insecurity, confusion. But detached people recognize manipulation quickly because their minds are not clouded by desperation. Desperation blinds people. That is why emotionally needy people often stay trapped in unhealthy cycles. They fear losing others more than losing themselves. And slowly, they abandon their own standards just to maintain connection. But detached people refuse to abandon themselves for acceptance. They understand a painful but necessary truth. Not everyone deserves permanent access to your life. Some people are lessons. Some are blessings. Some are distractions. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Your life changes when you become selective with energy. Selective with conversations. Selective with environments. Selective with relationships. Selective with what enters your mind daily. Because everything influences you. The music you consume. The people around you. The content you watch. The thoughts you repeat. All of it shapes your emotional state. Detached people protect their minds carefully because they understand the importance of mental environment. A peaceful mind creates a powerful life. But modern life constantly attacks peace. Notifications. Comparison. Drama. Noise. Attention addiction. People rarely sit quietly anymore. They are constantly consuming stimulation. And overstimulation weakens emotional control. That is why silence feels uncomfortable for many people. Because silence forces self-reflection. But self-reflection is necessary for growth. Without reflection, people repeat destructive patterns endlessly. They keep choosing toxic relationships. Keep repeating unhealthy habits. Keep sabotaging themselves emotionally. And years pass without real change. Detachment interrupts those cycles. It forces awareness. It forces maturity. It forces responsibility. Because eventually, you realize something important. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody can heal your mind for you. Nobody can build your discipline for you. Nobody can create your future for you. That responsibility belongs to you. And once you fully accept that responsibility, your life begins transforming. Victim mentality disappears. Excuses disappear. Dependency disappears. And personal power grows. One of the strongest things a human can say is this: I will be okay no matter what happens. That mindset changes everything. Because now fear loses control over you. If people leave, you survive. If plans fail, you adapt. If life changes suddenly, you remain grounded. That flexibility creates resilience. And resilience creates strength. Weak minds break under pressure. Strong minds bend and recover. That is the difference. Detachment does not remove pain from life. It removes unnecessary suffering. Pain is unavoidable sometimes. But emotional attachment often multiplies suffering. Overthinking multiplies suffering. Resistance multiplies suffering. Obsessing multiplies suffering. Detached people feel pain without becoming consumed by it. And that balance protects their peace. There is also a deep confidence that comes from no longer needing constant approval. You stop performing for people. Stop pretending. Stop chasing attention. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into environments where you no longer belong. And finally, you breathe freely. Authenticity feels liberating. Because pretending is exhausting. Trying to impress everybody is exhausting. Trying to avoid judgment constantly is exhausting. Detached people release that burden. And once that burden disappears, their energy changes completely. They become calmer. More focused. More disciplined. More magnetic. Because authenticity attracts naturally. People can sense when someone is comfortable within themselves. And that comfort creates quiet confidence. Quiet confidence is powerful. It does not beg for attention. It does not need to announce itself. It simply exists. Strong. Stable. Grounded. That energy cannot be faked. It comes from inner work. From healing. From self-respect. From emotional mastery. And emotional mastery takes time. You do not wake up one day completely detached from everything. It is a process. A painful process sometimes. There will be moments when your emotions try pulling you backward. Moments when loneliness whispers lies to your mind. Moments when attachment tries convincing you to return to unhealthy situations. But growth requires discipline. You must protect your future self even when your present emotions feel weak. That is true maturity. Choosing long-term peace over temporary emotional comfort. Many people destroy their future because they cannot tolerate temporary discomfort. They return to toxic habits because healing feels slow. They return to toxic people because loneliness feels uncomfortable. They abandon goals because progress feels difficult. But detached people develop patience. And patience changes outcomes. A patient person thinks long-term. A patient person understands that transformation requires consistency. A patient person does not panic during slow seasons. Because they understand that growth often happens invisibly before it becomes visible. Think about nature. Trees grow underground before rising above the surface. And humans are similar. Internal growth often happens silently before external success appears. That is why detached people continue working even when results are delayed. Because their motivation is deeper than applause. They are connected to purpose instead of attention. And purpose creates endurance. There will always be people who misunderstand your growth. Some people become uncomfortable when you stop being emotionally available for manipulation. When you stop tolerating disrespect. When you stop explaining yourself constantly. When you stop chasing approval. Suddenly, they call you different. Cold. Distant. But sometimes distance is necessary for healing. Sometimes boundaries are necessary for survival. And not everyone will understand your transformation. That is okay. Growth is not always comfortable for the people around you. Especially the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. But never feel guilty for protecting your peace. Never apologize for becoming stronger mentally. Never shrink your growth to make insecure people comfortable. Your life belongs to you. Your peace belongs to you. Your future belongs to you. Protect them carefully. The truth is that many people lose themselves trying to avoid being abandoned. But abandoning yourself is the worst abandonment of all. Read that slowly. Abandoning yourself is the worst abandonment of all. Every time you ignore your intuition to keep someone happy, you abandon yourself. Every time you tolerate disrespect to avoid loneliness, you abandon yourself. Every time you betray your values for acceptance, you abandon yourself. Detached people stop doing this. They choose self-respect over emotional dependency. And self-respect transforms everything. Because once you respect yourself deeply, your standards rise naturally. You stop accepting bare minimum behavior. You stop begging for consistency. You stop tolerating manipulation. And your life becomes healthier because your standards become healthier. People treat you differently when they sense self-respect. Confidence changes interactions. Energy changes interactions. Boundaries change interactions. That is why detachment is powerful. It shifts your entire presence. And once your presence changes, your reality changes too. If this message is opening your mind and helping you see life differently, subscribe to the channel right now and become part of this growing community of strong minds. Drop a comment below and tell me what part connected with you the most. And share this video with someone who needs to break free from emotional control and reclaim their peace.